Financial Times and the Wall Street Journal initially called my plan Bidenomics. I'm not sure they meant it in a totally complimentary way at the time. But guess what? It's working.
Is it? I hate to break it to you, but the polling data consistently says otherwise. Not only that, Americans say that their pocketbooks are feeling it too. Inflation edging lower, job growth is up on the surface, the stock market is higher, and the gas prices have fallen. But in spite of all this, Americans say it's not helping their pocketbook as we go into the new year. Let's ask Tomas Philipson, former chairman, White House Council of Economic Advisors. We're also joined by public finance economist at the Heritage Foundation EJ Antoni. We also have with us back John Tabacco, host of Wise Guys, and also he knows the markets really well too. So we're going to pick his brain on this.
Thank you.
Tomas, let's take a look at 2023. How is this year really stacked up economically?
Well, I think the big issue with Bidenomics is that he has built a much larger government, mainly on deficit borrowing. And that has been built on the back of the poor. If you look at, he could have taxed us to finance this government, but he taxed us with inflation instead of regular taxes. And that has hit the poor much harder than the rich, because the budget items of the poor have been hit much harder with inflation than that of the rich. In the regulatory space, he's exploded in regulations more than Obama. And that has also hit the poor a lot more. Casey Mulligan at University of Chicago has demonstrated that with data. And lastly, his main policy effort on climate change is really regressive in hitting the poor, because it's increasing costs for the poor much more so than for the rich, essentially, because the poor consume a larger share of the budget of energy than the rich. Even though the rich are the biggest polluters, the poor are paying the price for these policies.
Yeah, absolutely. EJ, the markets, they had a great year, though, particularly the NASDAQ, and inflation is down a bit. So why is there this big disconnect, though, with the White House over the economic realities?
I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that the elites in America today, and that goes for both the left and the right, the elites on both sides of the aisle, they are essentially removed from the ramifications of their own actions. And so they already started the year with a substantial amount of wealth, for example, and that wealth only grew. Meanwhile, for the vast majority of Americans, they did not get to partake in that growth. Instead, they got to continue suffering under the burden of inflation and, as was mentioned, the regulatory environment which this administration has created. And so, far from experiencing any of the fallout from their own policies, this administration gets to stay in their ivory tower and tell Americans how great it is for everyone up there, as if it was the same down here.
Yeah. John Tabacco, I know you have a lot of thoughts on this. Tee us up. Let's go.
Well, look, these guys made some great points, and they both said one thing: regulatory is a major problem. What a lot of retail investors aren't being told is it looks like the market is at these lofty highs, but it's really like 7 stocks, the big 7 they call them, that are pulling up the whole S&P 500, like 30% of it. So right. A lot of people in the middle, even on their investment portfolios, are getting smacked around. And at the same time, we've been talking about this on Wise Guys. We interview people in the street. They're all saying my pocketbook. And on the regulatory end, we're investigating this retail investment thing where 65,000 shareholders have lost potentially billions of dollars. And Gary Gensler won't pay attention to the people because he's focused on DEI and climate controls. Right. So the regulators need to lay off stopping capitalism, and focus in on protecting investors.
All right, we have to leave it there, but you dressed really nicely for us, John, and why is that?
Well, I've been waiting 20 years to get on Roger Stone's international best dressed list, and I hear he's still taking notes right up till midnight. So, Roger, hopefully this is my year. But thank you, buddy.
You're welcome. John Tabacco, host of Wise Guys, Tomas Philipson, EJ Antoni. Happy New Year to all of you. Thank you so much for coming on this New Year's Eve.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
All right. And you can also catch John Tabacco on Wise Guys. That airs Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Newsmax.